Claire had always been the perfect wife, or at least she thought so. For 15 long years, she poured her heart and soul into her marriage with Jonathan. They had built a life together, a home that reflected their shared dreams and hopes. From the outside, they seemed like the ideal couple, but beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to show, cracks Claire had refused to see, until one day, the whole facade came crumbling down in the most devastating way possible. It was a chilly autumn evening when Claire's world shattered into a million pieces. She had been preparing Jonathan's favorite dinner, pasta primavera, something she made for him every Friday to remind him of their honeymoon in Italy. He was supposed to be home from work, but an hour passed. Then two. Claire called his phone, only to be sent straight to voicemail. Panic began to rise in her chest as she dialed his office, but they told her he had left early. Early? That made no sense. Fearing the worst, Claire did what she had never done before. She opened his laptop. Her hands shook as she typed in the password she knew by heart, but she wished she didn't. The moment she saw the messages, her heart stopped. There they were, countless, intimate, gushing messages to a woman named Samantha. Claire's stomach turned. The dates went back months, 6 months of betrayal, of lies, of her being played for a fool while she cooked, cleaned, and devoted herself to Jonathan and their marriage. She felt the blood drain from her face as she read the most recent message. Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll tell her tomorrow, I swear, tomorrow. He was planning to leave her, tomorrow. The front door creaked open. Jonathan had finally arrived home, casually humming as if nothing was wrong. Claire stormed into the hallway, holding the laptop, shaking with fury and disbelief. Jonathan froze, the color draining from his face as he saw the damning evidence in her hands. Care to explain this? She spat, her voice trembling. He stuttered, eyes wide with fear. Claire, I can explain, but there was nothing to explain. Claire had already made up her mind. Get out, she said, her voice cold and final. Get out of this house. Now. Jonathan, shocked at the sudden collapse of his carefully woven web of lies, tried to plead, but it was too late. Claire had finally seen the truth, and she wasn't about to let him make a fool of her any longer. She threw his clothes out of the closet and onto the front lawn. The neighbors watched in stunned silence as Jonathan, once the golden boy of the block, stood there humiliated, his wife raining down fury upon him. He left that night, muttering apologies that Claire would never forgive. Claire spent the following weeks in a daze. Everything she thought she knew about her life was gone. The betrayal cut deeper than she ever could have imagined. But as time went on, she realized something. Jonathan had been dead weight. She had been holding herself back, tethered to a man who never truly loved her, who wasn't worth her time. Slowly, Claire began to rebuild herself, brick by brick. First, she focused on herself. She booked a solo trip to Bali, a place she had always dreamed of visiting but Jonathan had always dismissed as not his scene. For the first time in years, Claire felt free. She did yoga on the beach at sunrise, hiked through lush green forests, and ate exotic foods that opened her senses to new experiences. Claire transformed her grief into power. She realized that Jonathan had taken her for granted because she had always put him first. Now, it was her turn. When she returned, Claire threw herself into her passion, art. She had been a painter before she married Jonathan, but over the years, she had abandoned it, always putting Jonathan's needs before her own. Now, she set up a studio in what used to be their guest room and began painting with a fervor she hadn't felt in years. Her works were bold, powerful, full of emotion. People noticed. Her art began to sell, small pieces at first, but soon galleries were contacting her. Within a year, she had her first solo exhibition, and the reviews were glowing. The Claire who had once been meek and submissive was gone, replaced by a fierce, confident woman who no longer needed anyone's approval. As her career flourished, so did her social life. Claire reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and even started dating again. She met men who admired her for her strength and independence, not because she played the role of the dutiful wife. Jonathan, meanwhile, had fallen into ruin. His affair with Samantha fizzled out, and he was left alone, watching from afar as Claire's star rose higher and higher. One night, months after the divorce was finalized, Claire received an unexpected visitor. Jonathan stood on her doorstep, looking disheveled and pathetic. "Claire, I made a mistake," he begged. "I was stupid. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Please, please take me back." Claire didn't even flinch. She looked at him with a mixture of pity and triumph. "You made your bed, Jonathan," she said calmly, "now lie in it." And with that, she closed the door on him, and on the past, for good. Claire had risen from the ashes, stronger than ever before. Betrayal had nearly destroyed her, but instead of letting it break her, she used it as fuel for a new life. Jonathan may have left her shattered, but she had rebuilt herself into something far more beautiful and powerful than she had ever been with him. Claire was living proof that sometimes, the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened.